Good morning, all of my friends. I'm here with another rotten article, and I'm Joni Rotten, by the way. This is from the Nature Cardiovascular Research and nature.com, and it has a paper that was published in December 12th of 2022, and it says here that the risk of POTS after COVID-19 vacation and SARS infection. So it doesn't matter if you have the infection or if you got the loosey juicy, it's saying that there's a risk of POTS. Possibly more studies are needed. So POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, can follow COVID-19 as part of the post-acute sequel of SARS-CoV-2 infection, but can also develop after the vacation, although at a lower frequency. And if you've been following Joni for a minute, you know that we called this here out all the way back in 2020. POTS was going to become POTS, and mast cell activation syndrome are going to be comorbidities. And we have plenty of articles also saying the same thing, as if they didn't know. If I figured it out all the way back then, clearly they would have been able to figure it out. But this article says vaccines represent one of the most groundbreaking scientific advances that substantially reduce the mortality and morbidity associated with various infectious pathogens. And since the introduction of the COVID-19 vacations in the US in December of 2020, vacations against SARS has remained the most effective and influential global public health strategy to mitigate the pandemic. So these are still the best way. They're going to definitely tell you to go and have one. However, reports of post-vacation adverse events involving various cardiovascular and neurological manifestations, including POTS, have been mounting in the vaccine, in the VAERS report system. And POTS is a common disorder of the autonomic nervous system. It's characterized by an increase in heart rate of at least 30 beats per minute within 10 minutes of standing, and symptoms of orthostatic intolerance, such as pre-syncope. Syncope is fainting, so that's near fainting, heart palpitations, lightheadedness, generalized weakness, headache, and nausea with symptoms duration exceeding 3 months. I have POTS. I've had POTS long before the pandemic. So I was already quite familiar with the patterns of this, which is why, we saw it so soon. In the USA, the pre-pandemic prevalence of POTS has been estimated in the range of 500,000 to 3 million people, affecting predominantly women of reproductive age and roughly 1 in 100 teenagers. However, a current prevalence is likely significantly higher, owing to post-COVID-19 POTS, which can develop as part of the post-acute sequel of infections. The new onset of POTS can also follow the vaccination, and was reported in literature after immunizations of Gardasil, a HPV vaccine. So you will recognize that. So a lot of teenagers, especially girls, are encouraged to get the HP. Remember, it started with girls and then they moved it to boys. It's now part of the vaccine process for children, whereas it used in the beginning, it was like chickenpox was too. In the beginning, it was your choice. Now you don't have a choice. Your child needs to be vaccinated with HPV. However, it could cause them to come down with POTS in the future. However, the causation relationship between the HPV vaccines and increased incidence of POTS has not been thoroughly investigated. This is despite several case series reporting from different countries that 2 studies have demonstrated an increased signal for POTS and its associated system clusters following the HPV vaccine, based on data from the World Health Organization's pharmacovigilance database and a meta-analysis of clinical study reports from 24 clinical trials. So even the WHO is aware. In the study published in this issue of Nature Cardiovascular Research, they examined the frequency of new POTS-associated diagnosis, POTS, dysautonomia, fatigue, mast cell disorders and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome before and after COVID-19 vaccine. And they found that the odds of POTS and associated diagnoses were higher in the 90 days. Rule of three: what you do in your business today won't affect it for 90 days. So pass out your business cards, and in 90 days, you'll see the effects after the exposure and 90 days before the exposure, with the relative risk increase of 33% for those that are following along. Furthermore, the authors show the odds of new POTS-associated diagnoses following natural SARS infection were higher than pre-infection, with the increased rate of about 52%. That's crazy. The study is based on a large series of approximately 300,000 vaccinated individuals from one geographic territory in the U.S., that's Los Angeles County, with 0.27% new post-vaccination POTS diagnoses compared to 0.118 in the pre-vaccination period, giving the odds ratio of 1.52 for post-vaccinated POTS diagnosis. Accumulating all POTS-associated diagnosis in one group gave slightly lower odds. Interestingly, among the 12,460 individuals with confirmed infection, the pre-infection incidence of POTS was 1.73 compared to 3.42 after the infection. So it doesn't matter if you get the loosey juice or the sneeze. You have a risk. This suggests that there is symptomatic 19 infection. We're more likely to develop POTS in general, and that the risk of post-infection POTS is higher than post-vaccination POTS. So you do, the loosey juice could lower your risk, and we're talking about not also looking at the HPV vaccine, not just the loosey juice, any loosey juice. The study has limitations. First, the accuracy of POTS and POTS-associated diagnosis is crucial for study validity. Second, the general awareness and diagnosis vigilance of POTS. And a lot of doctors have never even heard of it, let alone seen it. So, and even if they had seen it, they wouldn't necessarily recognize it. And most of these POTS people get misdiagnosed for years. I think the average now currently is like 12 years. Some people sooner. Depends on what your doctor knows. It depends on if your doctor. So a lot of doctors are being shared this information because they're going to start seeing it in their offices along with mast cell activation syndrome. And they have been an effort to educate doctors and primary care doctors to recognize mast cell and POTS in their patients. So that's what this is. We got a little change in history. September 11th of 2023, it has been updated to clarify that a fully adjusted comparison of odds of POTS attributable to the vaccination versus infection is not possible within the study design, giving two mutually exclusive populations, leading to changes in this article's title and the description of POTS risk in the abstract, 4th and 7th paragraphs. The changes are made with the HTML and PDF versions of this article. So they wanted to update it a little. And there's the references. Here's some author information at the Department of Neurology, Dysautonomia Clinic, and the Department of Cardiology in Stockholm, Sweden, New York, and New York. And so they have no ethics declarations. And you can cite the article, and here are two articles that this article has been cited in: cardiovascular autonomic dysfunction in post syndrome, a major healthcare burden. And then we also have the author correction here with the apparent risks of POTS after the diagnosis and V-cation. So I think, and here it even says the risk of POTS after COVID the more studies are needed. They always say more studies are needed. So make sure that you go to your doctor so that we can run more studies.